And we're back with presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg. And so we gave you the commercial break to think about it. What is the best idea you've heard from one of the other Democratic candidates for president?
Well, I think each of the candidates is offering something really helpful. We talked about the wealth tax. I think that's a good idea. I think the baby bonds concept, or some way to make sure that we are starting early on addressing some of the gaps, not just in income, but in the accumulation of wealth, especially for our most disadvantaged. Also a really good idea that's already been contributed in this debate. And, even some of the ideas that I'm not on board with, I'm glad that we have a bit more range coming from left through center to kind of stake out where our party ought to be. And so I don't think it's a bad thing for us to have perspectives in this party from ones that are more centrist than I am to folks who are calling themselves democratic socialists, if only to make sure that we remind ourselves that we ought to have as much of a range as the right has.
I want to get to some of the questions we got on Twitter from some of our viewers. Gina Engel tweeted, "What does he intend to do about our troops in Afghanistan?"
We're leaving Afghanistan. The only question is whether we do it well or whether we do it poorly. Doing it well means we do it in a context where we know that the U.S. homeland won't be attacked because of something that's happening there. I think it's a good sign that there are peace talks going on, but I'm a little bit concerned with the progress of those talks in that they seem to involve the Taliban and the U.S., but the democratically elected Afghan government is being left off to the side almost as an afterthought. I think they're going to have to be party to any kind of lasting peace. But the bottom line is we can't be the guarantors of prosperity and an ideal situation in Afghanistan. And so we're going, look, when I was there 5 years ago in 2014 as a lieutenant, I thought I was among the last U.S. troops to be there. And now we're in 2019. You could be old enough to enlist and have not even been alive when 9/11 happened. The departure has to be accelerated, and we have to do it in a context that makes sure that we are going to be protecting the homeland so that people don't get sent over there again in the future.
Twitter is allowing us to turn this into a mini town hall with questions from our viewers on Twitter. And so Christina Myers asked, what is the biggest regret in your professional life? Something you wish you could go back and change, your "if I knew then what I know now" moment.
Well, early in my professional life, I turned down a job offer from the Obama for Senate campaign in 2004 because I had a chance to work for John Kerry, and it just didn't seem like I could pass that up. Although I can't say that's maybe necessarily a regret if I'd done that. And of course, I'm a great admirer of President Obama, but I'm not sure I'd be doing what I am today. At every turn you go back, you think about things you could have done better, certainly things on each of my campaigns that I would have done differently, and moments in my time as mayor that I would have adjusted course as well. But I think the most important thing, you're going to make mistakes as you go. As a friend said to mine, it's simply more to your credit if you make a different mistake each time.
You worked for the Kerry presidential campaign instead of the Obama Senate campaign. Let's squeeze in one more before the commercial break. This is from a former Republican who tweets as Atticus Finch, which I don't think is his real name, Atticus Finch. He says, "I'm a 45-year-old white male Southerner. Until 2016, I always voted GOP. I'm conservative but reject the politics of Donald Trump. I believe in compromise and moderation. I'd like to vote for a Democrat and will not vote for Trump. What can Mayor Pete offer a voter like me?"
Well, the good news is most Americans agree on a lot of issues that are being presented as divisive. For example, statistically, the questioner is probably one of the 80% or so of Republicans who believe in universal background checks, maybe part of the majority of Americans who believe we ought to raise wages for everybody through an increase in the minimum wage, and probably part of the bipartisan majority that believes that comprehensive immigration reform is going to have to include a compromise that creates a pathway to citizenship, something to appropriately take care of dreamers who know this country is their only home, as well as whatever measures are appropriate on border security. These are all things, by the way, that was the terms of a bipartisan compromise that made it in the Senate but died in the House. The astonishing thing to me is that these are subjects of compromise among the American people, but can't be delivered by the American Congress right now because the center of gravity in Washington is so out of whack with the center of gravity of the American people. Where even a reasonable idea that among the American people commands some level of support and respect on both sides of the aisle is treated as too far out for Washington to deliver.
We're going to have to squeeze in one more commercial break. And when we come back, Mr. Mayor, the final question of the night will be asked by one of our viewers via Twitter. It's a difficult question. It's not a policy question. It's a question about the Democratic field. We're going to get to that when we come back from this break. We'll be right back with Mayor